One of the first games I'd be playing being Nicolas Cage in Lord of War, except you're funding goblins, orcs, and humans to duke it out in a fantasy world, was not on my 2026 bingo card. But that game actually being good absolutely shocked me. So, in this Magic Forge Tycoon review, we're going to walk through the features of the game, talk about what makes it so unique, and then find out who this game is for and whether you should part with your cash for it. So let's dive in. You're a blacksmith running a forge. You forge weapons. It sounds fairly straightforward. You do this by selecting a weapon template, you start out with a couple, then you select the quantity, and then you click forge. There are 3 phases that you have to go through to forge a weapon, and in these phases you have 3 bars in each. You have to balance between style and sturdiness. The aim of the game here is to try and get the perfect balance between style and substance. And once you've forged a weapon, it'll be judged by 3 fantasy judges in some kind of bizarre X Factor type affair, and they give it a score out of 10. The higher the score, the more valuable it is. Every time you craft a weapon, you get XP. That makes crafting that weapon in the future easier and results in the product being higher quality. Of course, this is all trial and error based and what the weapon looks like in its picture when you originally click forge. Is it an orcish wooden club? Well, you might want to set the sliders to favour raw power over elegance. But if it's an elven sword that looks fancy, then you might err on the side of elegance. Every time you forge a weapon, it tells you what parameters you set last time, including which ones are perfect. So it's a case of really experimenting, and the game rewards you for it, which is so refreshing. You really feel like you're running a product business and you're trying to make the best product. While your weapons craft, you click the surrounding fruit trees to get gold in a mad cookie clicker type game that will satiate your dopamine-addled brain better than any TikTok doom scroll. But while that's the general gameplay loop and it sounds fairly simple, there's actually so much going on behind the scenes that the marketing for the game just doesn't do it justice. Let's start with the basics. You have to sell your weapons somewhere, and that somewhere is to the other kingdoms around you. These are randomly generated on each playthrough and have a full backstory. There are different races like orcs, humans, or elves, and they all have a different attitude. Some are warlike, some are peaceful, and some just love money. At the start of the game, you open a simple market stall in one of these kingdoms of your choosing. You can buy additional market stalls in each of the faction's kingdoms, but that costs money. These kingdoms will also offer you contract jobs to produce a certain number of weapons at a certain quality. Fulfill these requests and you'll gain reputation with that faction, which offers buffs like special weapon upgrades and schematics or resources. Where it starts to get crazy though is that this is a living and breathing world with real politics and a real economy. These factions will start going to war with each other, which is excellent news for a fantasy weapons merchant, so they'll purchase weapons from you at an increased price and quantity. But it doesn't stop there. If you make weapons for every faction, then you can stop wars by balancing power. But if you support one faction over others, then they will go to war and even destroy another faction entirely. Do you want to keep the peace for stable income, or make a killing, literally, by making sure one faction dominates all others? You use your gold to upgrade your forge. These upgrades include batch size so you can forge more weapons at once, faster production time, purchasing new weapon schematics, and you can even start automating your forge. So rest assured, you won't simply be clicking through menus the entire game. It gets even more interesting when you unlock the stock market, which allows you to buy and sell the resources you need to build weapons. The stock market fluctuates based on whether it's peacetime or if, for example, iron for swords is needed for a war. So you should probably hoover up resources while they're cheap. The market also has fashion trends. So at some points, for example, orcish shields might become trendy, meaning you can get even more money by making them. And did I mention that Magic Forge Tycoon has a full day and season cycle? Well, it does, and you have to manage it because these batches of weapons take weeks to produce, and in the meantime, you need to manage your money or it's game over. For all of its fun fantasy graphics, Magic Forge Tycoon is actually a tough game that has an almost roguelike aspect to it. If you run out of money, you'll be given 2 months to get back on track or it's game over. That's not long when a batch of weapons can take 11 weeks to build. That means you'll be starting from pretty much scratch again, so you'll really need to dive into the in-depth revenue graphs the game gives you to see how much you're spending on rent, materials and so on, and how much income you'll have, because you can quickly find yourself in hot water if you just keep pumping out weapons you don't have the means to make. Magic Forge Tycoon is an amazing game, and one that I honestly wasn't expecting to have so much fun with. It has beautiful graphics, and an addictive gameplay loop that has you hitting new game again even after the most frustrating failures. Magic Forge Tycoon blends deep management mechanics with a living, dynamic world that you truly have an impact on. The premise of the game is also unique, and I got to live out my dreams of becoming a war profiteering arms merchant. Wait, what? But now that you know I had a great time with the game, let's discuss who Magic Forge Tycoon is for and whether you should buy it now at full price, wait for a sale, or skip entirely. Magic Forge Tycoon manages to create complex systems, but delivers them in a way that even casual players will understand, so it has mass appeal beyond Tycoon, strategy, or simulation veterans. When you combine that with the fact that this game is a mere $12 on Steam at full price, then I can wholeheartedly recommend anyone with even a passing interest in this game check it out, because even if you don't gel with it as much as I did, I think you're going to be getting your money's worth. Magic Forge Tycoon is a refreshingly fun game, which isn't something that can be said for a lot of games in this genre, which can become spreadsheet stale and soulless. We need more games like Magic Forge Tycoon, and I can't wait to see what the developers cook up next.